Just press the let's go live button, and so that means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internets. Before we go ahead and get started, it's a lovely Thursday. We've got some trial business to attend to. We're not late. No way. We hit it on time. I was waiting here like, all right, tick, 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 boom. Hopefully we are percolating over there on the Rumble feed. But it looks like we're here on YouTube. We got the Telegram up. We got Locals is good. So I think, and Rumble's here, so I think we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about the Trump trial, and it's day 3. We're going to get into it. We've got Alina was finishing up cross-examination yesterday with E. Jean Carroll herself. This woman here, aka Miss Bergdorf. We've been covering this saga for quite some time. We've been here. We covered the full trial the first time this happened, and we saw the split verdict. We saw Donald Trump was found not liable for the old hibbity-dibbity, but he was found liable for the grab him by the purse situation. And so we're now back on the defamation charges and the damages portion of this case. And so we're going to start with a recap from Donald Trump. He was speaking after the second day of trial. He came out and gave actually a couple speeches, a couple segments that we're going to take a look at. And he was there, of course, today. He went over to attend Amalija's funeral. Melania's mother died, rest in peace. Trump said, can we please have a postponement so that I can go and attend this? As you can see, he's there. A loving husband, a tremendous father, and an excellent president was there by his wife's side. But that meant that he couldn't be in court today. And so Judge Kaplan just held the proceedings anyways. Like, what do I care? Your mother-in-law's dead. Great. He didn't care at all. And so we're going to do a recap. Remember that on day 1, Alina got in a couple very important tidbits out of E. Jean Carroll, including the fact that E. Jean Carroll admitted that she deleted some pretty important evidence that would have been useful for the defense, including evidence that she was under attack because she said that she got some very nasty social media messages. And that's really the pretext, the basis for why this lawsuit should carry on. And so she admits that, yeah, she deleted some evidence. We saw that from our friend Inner City Press. We also saw that according to E. Jean Carroll herself, she said that she met with George Conway. George Conway, you know, is not a fan of Donald Trump at all. He showed up with an iPad. Sounds like he might have had a whole presentation ready there for her and explained the difference between a criminal case and a civil case. He's like, hey, I got the whole thing right here. Here, sign right here. So he said, I could suggest an attorney. And he did, connected her with Roberta Kaplan, and boom, here we are. The whole thing being funded by Reid Hoffman, a rabid anti-Trumper. And these guys are just, you know, all peas in a pod. So we got some reaction from George Conway because he came up in the trial yesterday. He's like, well, Trump's a maniac, whatever. So we'll listen to him. Trump also responded to this on Truth Social. He had a lot to say about it, calling Piglet, Reid Hoffman, a piglet, which, you know, pretty good name. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to jump into the actual activities of the trial in day 3. And to do this, we're going to go over to Inner City Press's trial thread. And he is going to walk us through what happened because he was there on the scene in the Southern District of New York. And so all that will be coming up. And we'll take a look at who the next witness was, which was Professor Ashley Humphreys, who came in to talk about damages. You know, all those mean tweets are very expensive, like a couple $1 million. Wow. All right. So we'll go through that. $12 million is apparently what it sounds like. So we'll talk about that. Then we're going to jump into our second segment. And we've got Jack Smith, who has been ordered to stop filing his useless, garbage, unconstitutional, and illegal motions. So Chutkan came out. She's like, oh, gosh. I can't believe I have to write this one. Remember, Jack Smith, this case is on appeal. Donald Trump says, I have presidential immunity, and I agree with him. And so this is on appeal at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. And while that's happening, everything down at the lower level court is supposed to be stayed. It's supposed to be held in abeyance. No more filing of motions. But Jack doesn't understand that. And so he's been filing things like motions in limine, which are pretty substantive motions. And he's also dropping wheelbarrows of discovery over to Donald Trump. He's saying, we're not reading this garbage, Jack. Illegitimate. Get out of here. And so Chutkan said, all right, Jack, yeah, you can't file any more stuff unless you get my permission. And so she had to kind of revoke some of his, insanity away from him and kind of scold him a little bit. But Trump said, let's hold him in contempt. Let's issue an order to show cause for this flagrant violation. And the judge said, we're not going to be doing that. Said, obviously not. He's like my BFF forever. So order to show cause and the contempt requests were denied. But Jack Smith is having his reins pulled in a little bit. And then in our final segment, we're going to see what's going on over there in Big Fanny's Fulton County, because Donald Trump responded to some of this. He called her indictment total BS. And so when we get to this segment, make sure the kids are in bed. Put your earmuffs on. We might have a content warning coming up from the president himself, because he's right. It is BS. And so we're going to hear what he says about that. She, of course, is still in some hot water. We've got a February 15th hearing coming up where, we're going to have an evidentiary hearing on this. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And so we'll see what her response looks like, because that is due by February 2nd. So Fanny's got to answer a lot of this stuff in just a couple weeks. So then we've got 15 media outlets now are all honing in on to Georgia. And we're pretty excited about that. Here we can say go media, because they're filing, 15 of them, a request to unseal Nathan Wade's divorce filings. Of course, there's a lot of interesting things that a lot of people are curious about in those records. In fact, why were they sealed in the first place? Because remember, this guy filed his divorce. He met with Big Fanny. He came out of the office. He's like, yeah, baby, whatever you need. Here, I'll sign right there. Perfect. Thanks. She starts dumping cash over to him. The next day, he goes and files for divorce. Ridiculous. All right. So the media demanding some things be unsealed here. And this was an excerpt from the local news. It was just hysterical. They walk us through the numbers. Remember, there were 3 special prosecutors. Who got paid what, right? Fanny said, well, I paid them all evenly. Well, they go through this guy here. I think he's from Georgia. He walks us through. He shows us what Cross got, shows us what Floyd got, the white guy, and then he shows us what Wade got. And the numbers, one of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong here. I can remember that from however old I was. Anyways, so we've got all that coming up and more. We got 3 full segments, and then we're going to jump into your comments on the day. But before we get into anything, my friends, let's say hello to our sponsors today, our friends over at Private Internet Access. Of course, they're here sharing with us why a VPN is important and why you need one. Here they are. It's important to stay protected on the internet, my friends, and Private Internet Access will help you do that. Private Internet Access is a VPN service that creates an encrypted tunnel for you when you browse the web, so that people on the same network as you can't snoop in and see what you're doing. And that's awesome. But what I also love about a VPN is that it allows you to change your IP address to one of over 90 countries around the world. This lets you bypass geographic restrictions on certain websites like Netflix that will often limit movies or TV shows like one of my favorites, The Office, and they do that based on your region, meaning that when you change your region, you get access to additional content you might not otherwise see. PIA also gets you around website geo restrictions. For example, Canadians now can't access Facebook News and Google News due to the controversial BC18 bill, but with PIA, they can. And what I like most about Private Internet Access is that they are the world's most transparent VPN provider. With over 30 million downloads and a no logs policy means they never record or store user data. All this has been verified by a third-party audit from Deloitte and successfully defended in court in litigation. And now, Private Internet Access allows you to protect all your devices with just one subscription, so you can protect your whole household in one go. Super simple. So let's get you a VPN from Private Internet Access. Go to www.piavpn.com/Robert and you'll get 83% off and 4 months free when you sign up for a 2-year plan. Be sure to use my link for a major discount on this initial offer, and my friends, we'll see you at piavpn.com/Robert. All right, my friends. So go check out the link down in the description below. Our friends at Private Internet Access are amazing, and we appreciate them sponsoring our work here, and thank you for supporting them. So check that out, piavpn.com. The link is down in the description below. All right, now Let's get to it, my friends. Now, after the show's over, we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party, just as a reminder. And so let's get right to it. Trump trial, day 3 begins. Trump trial, day 3, E. Jean Carroll, the plaintiff, and we are back. Donald Trump, though, is not with us. He is attending Melania's mother's funeral. Look at him there, a good husband, a good president, and a good son-in-law, attending the funeral, even though he has a trial that is well underway and well in session. Now, he's already asked Judge Chutkan for permission to leave and for permission to postpone the trial so that he could attend that. But the judge said no. Pick the trial or pick your dead mother-in-law. And so, of course, Trump went to support his wife. Nice man. Now, of course, Trump had something to say because he was there on day 2 of the trial, and he had some opinions about the testimony that we heard previously. Remember, our friend Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee, reported on the case from the Southern District of New York, and he had some interesting things to share. Alina was doing cross-examination of Miss Carroll, and here was the explanation. The question was from Miss Abba during the cross-exam, what did you do with the emails? And Miss Carroll said, I may have deleted some emails too, but I'm not sure. Did you give those emails that we need to your lawyers? No. Why not? I don't want to upset them. Okay, so the lawyers say we need those things. Did you give them to them? No, we told them we wanted those things. You deleted the evidence. Okay, thanks for admitting that, E. Jean Carroll. Evidence has been deleted. Nobody cares about it. The judge lets everything roll on. Here's another bit. Question about who decided to sue and why and when. Roberta Kaplan asked Miss Carroll, when did you decide to sue? She says, I was at a party with George Conway. He took me aside, and George Conway, by the way, is this guy. You know him from the former husband to Kellyanne Conway. Good move for her. So this guy is now the subject of this trial. Says, I was at a party with George Conway. It was an anti-Trump extravaganza, no doubt. He took me aside. He had an iPad. He explained the difference between a criminal case and a civil case. Here, this is how this works. This is what you need to do. He took me through the steps, and he said he could suggest an attorney. That was Roberta Kaplan. Roberta Kaplan is being funded by Reid Hoffman, the same guy who spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein, who's now suddenly a victim's rights person, who's now funding E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit. Wrong. It's an anti-Trump onslaught. We're all familiar with this. So George Conway's behind a lot of this. We'll listen to him respond to it. Trump had a lot to say on Truth Social. And then we're going to jump into the day 3 X scripts, courtesy of Inner City Press on X. Make sure you're following him, named Matthew Russell Lee. We're going to go through everything that happened today and see who the next witness was, which was damages professor Ashley Humphreys, to come out and say, E. Jean's been very harmed and she needs a lot of money. Now, Trump obviously has money and they're going after his deep pockets. But after day 2 of the trial, he came out and he had something to say. More than something. He spoke for several minutes, and I've got a couple clips here. Here's one where he's talking about Judge Kaplan in particular. And remember, we've got 2 people named Kaplan here. Judge Kaplan has no relation to Roberta Kaplan. Judge Kaplan is the judge. Roberta Kaplan is E. Jean Carroll's, the plaintiff's lawyer, but they're not related as far as we know, as far as I know. Now, here is Donald Trump responding after day 2.
Well, thank you very much. So, as you know, the First Lady's mother passed away. The funeral is tomorrow, and we would have assumed that for a trial like this, it's not an emergency in terms of timing. The judge would have been very nice and would let me go, because I want to be at every trial day, because I saw what happened in the first one where I was asked not to go by the lawyers very much. They said, it's demeaning. There was no evidence. There was no anything. And so I didn't go. And I understood exactly what he meant when he said it was demeaning. There was no reason to go and you shouldn't go. And I decided on this one, same judge, he's a radical Trump hater. And I said, I will go to all days. So what happened very terribly is we asked to just delay the trial for one day so I could go to the funeral tomorrow, and then we could start Friday or Monday or any time they want. And he said, absolutely not. The trial will go on just as it is. You can go to the funeral or you can go to the trial, but you can't do both. I thought it was terrible. So he would rather have me miss the funeral or go to the funeral, miss the trial. And that's a nasty man. He's a nasty judge. He's a Trump-hating guy.
That's true.
And it's obvious to everybody in the court. It's a disgrace, frankly, what's happening. It's a disgrace. Happens to be a Clinton appointment, but I'm sure that has nothing to do with it.
So we're going to go through that, and we're going to hear the double standards that come out to play as we go through the X scripts, because there's a lot there. And remember yesterday, Roberta Kaplan's lawyers, they say, Judge, can we have a sidebar, please? He says, yeah, come on up. I've got a hot cup of tea for you here. Would you like some sugar in it? Alina says, Your Honor, may I please have a sidebar? He says, shut your mouth and sit down. He's like, holy Christ, what? Criminy. Okay, and we're going to see that double standard here. Now, obviously, federal courts, they don't broadcast any of this stuff. Otherwise, we get to see this on display. So we go to our X scripts for some details on that. But before we do, Donald Trump said he was at Amalija's funeral, being an amazing husband and a tremendous president, leading his country, even during times of sorrow and mourning. And you can see we're going to clean this screen up here a little bit so we can actually read the article, and here is what they tell us. Melania Trump gave a very heartfelt eulogy at the funeral of her beloved mommy. And we love our moms here, okay? We love our moms so damn much here. Oh, I almost said the D word. Sorry, Mom. I have to wash my mouth out with soap. But we love our mamas here. And this is reprehensible that Donald Trump had to choose during this time of sorrow. But he did, because that's how these judges are. Now, he has to skip his defamation trial to be there in love and support of his wife. Now, her mother was named Amalija Knobs, and she was laid to rest at a private funeral in Florida on Thursday evening. Age 78, beautiful life, beautiful woman. Melania was there, saying that she was there paying tribute to her mother's nurturing spirit. Now, here's a beautiful photograph of the couple, even though they are in mourning. And you can see there Trump by her side in total support, unwavering support. Now, here's some more photographs, and you can see there they are holding their hands. Where else would you be other than by your wife's side? Tremendous man and an inspiration to us all, especially us unmarried men. So, as you can see, Melania was there giving a beautiful eulogy. Trump attended as they laid her to rest. May she rest in peace. We pay tributes and pray for her family, the Trump family, and for the Melania family as they recover from their loss. Now, Donald Trump also had some things to say about this. He was on True Social. Have a couple screenshots of that. He said this, I said it once and I'll say it again 1,000 times. Until this ridiculous hoax was revealed to me by the fake news media, I never heard of E. Jean Carroll, never had anything to do with her, never would want to have anything to do with her, never brought her into a locked changing room of a crowded New York City department store, which was directly opposite the checkout booth, and never touched her or in any way would want to touch her. No kidding. Now, the whole story is a made up and disgusting hoax, like the now fully discredited Russia hoax and all the others. This one is also conceived, funded, and carried out by Democrat political operatives like her lawyer, who I just beat in another scam case. Her name's called Roberta Kaplan. Also, Piglet Reed Hoffman, who's a little, kind of resembles that, and a major Democrat donor who is funding this witch hunt. That's Reed Hoffman. Or the crazed George Conway, who we'll hear from next, who lost his wonderful wife, Kellyanne, who divorced him and seriously upgraded her life, and to another, and has gone completely nuts. Now, Judge Kaplan knows this, and all about the, quote, fake dress, but won't let it be revealed. Fake dress. Broken justice, says Trump. It's absolutely right about that. Now, there was another post from him. This is what that one said. Said, now that E. Jean Carroll has admitted to illegally deleting and destroying mountains of evidence, as well as, it seems, unlawfully owning a gun and buying ammunition, if Judge Lewis Kaplan does the right and patriotic thing, he will immediately dismiss the current election interfering witch hunt trial and reverse the unfair and biased result in the first sham trial, which was forced upon a very popular and successful president of the United States of America, me. The crooked Joe Biden directed conspiracy of hoaxes and scams is falling apart like a rotten house of cards. Make America great again. And so that's Trump, obviously blasting the judge, blasting George Conway. Just so we're clear on who this guy is, what he sounds like, this is him. He showed up on with CNN and did the usual routine. You know, Trump's a narcissist, authoritarianism, bunch of, words with multiple syllables to make themselves feel better. But here's what it sounded like.
What were your main takeaways from what happened today in that room?
Well, I think it's classic Donald Trump. I think the Judge Kaplan, who is really one of the smartest federal judges in the country and one of the toughest, but fair, he had it exactly right when he said that, I guess you can't control yourself. He said that to Donald Trump. Donald Trump cannot control himself. And I think this is an important point. That this case is actually...
Trump's leaning back there. He looks pretty laid back, man. He's just chilling. He's like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to be in the White House in a year from now. I'll be sitting there. A year and 3 days, I'll be sitting in the White House. This is hilarious. He has a little smirk on his face. Look at that.
A nice microcosm of Trump's psychological condition. I think it's important that we start talking about that, because all of the things that you hear criticism of Donald Trump for, the misogyny, the racism, the authoritarianism, the criminality, the conduct of Mar-a-Lago, all of these things stem from his deep psychological disorders.
Yes.
He is a narcissistic sociopath, and he behaved like one in court. And the jury is getting to see that up close and personal. And you saw it up close and personal.
Okay, has he talked about the case or the evidence at all, or just Donald Trump?
In that clip of the town hall, where Donald Trump is continually just lie after lie after lie before you can even say stop. And 3 lies about Jean Carroll just in those clips. One is he said that he never met her. Well, there was a photograph of them meeting back in the 90s. It was actually in the original New York Magazine article.
Yeah, it's a photo line.
The second is
it's a photo line. That's the point. He takes a lot of photos because he's a famous person and people want to take photographs with him. Probably not familiar with that.
Claiming that, she's not my type, as though she wasn't good looking enough for him. Well, at his deposition, he identified the picture of this beautiful woman in that same photograph who was E. Jean Carroll. He said, that's Marla Maples, my second wife. And then the third thing he says is the jury found that I didn't rape her. That's not true. The jury found that he penetrated her with his hands, and that's not technically rape under New York law, but as the judge has said...
that's the point. It is not technically rape there, buddy boy.
3 times in written opinions since, including last week, Donald Trump raped Jean Carroll by...
Okay, but that's not what the jury said, so stop saying that. The jury had 2 choices. One was a sexual assault. The other was the R. Now, they said no on the R. Now, the judge, who's, take what you want call the judge what you want to call him. A fan of Trump, he is not. And he then concocted this whole thing to say, it's penetration, and penetration's the same thing. And so even though it's literally 2 different things under New York, and they put 2 different things in the statute, in the jury form that we shared yesterday, the jury said no. And the judge said, I don't care what the jury said. I still think it is. And this is themselves contorting this stupid talking point everywhere they turn.
Including last week, Donald Trump raped Jean Carroll by any reasonable definition of that word.
No, not reasonable. Okay. The jury said no. The jury said no. Actually unanimously, George.
Colloquial sense.
Yeah, they said liable.
So he's just a pathological liar.
You're a liar, buddy boy. They said no to unanimously. He was not liable for the R. And so he's got to go through this giant contortion. Well, the judge wrote about it in the judge's opinion. It's like not actually, it's like whoopee. It's like not rape. It's like the other kind. It's like kind of a thing. And so we put them all together under the same thing. No. Why did you have 2 different forms for the jurors? And they said no on the one. So then they have to come back after the fact and contort themselves to make themselves feel better. Trump's a rapist. That's not what the jury said. That's what some judge said, who already has a long history of being rabidly anti-Trump, as we've seen. Won't even let him go to his wife's mother's funeral. Despicable. All right. So let's get right into it now. We're on day 3, and we've got inner city press reporting, doing a tremendous job as always. And of course, we really encourage you to follow Inner City Press and subscribe to his Substack. He's got an amazing Substack out there as well, where he provides even more detail than what he posts on his X account. And he also has booklets, which are available on Amazon. So go check those out as well. Now he's there in the courtroom. And this guy's amazing. Okay. I don't know how he's typing so fast, but he's basically live transcribing this into X. Courtroom's a flurry. People are moving, hustling and bustling. There's paper. There's some laughter in the air. People are on their phones scrolling around. It's Thursday. Boom, door pops open. All rise. Oh, put your phone away. Judge Kaplan comes storming in there looking as cranky as ever. He sits down in the chair with his robe. He says, Miss Carroll, you're still under oath. And some people say, but yeah, the jury's not here, Your Honor. He says, oh yeah, bring in the jury. So then the jury comes in, everybody stands up, waits for them, looking good. Good morning. Hi, good morning, nodding. This, you don't like our side, like us. We're better than them. So then they all come and sit down. Judge says, Miss Abba, you're back up. Donald Trump's defense lawyer, Alina Habba, is now up. We remember she was cross-examining Miss Carroll yesterday on day 2. We start back with her. She says, Miss Carroll, have you spoken with your lawyers about your testimony since yesterday? She says, no, I haven't. I was asking you yesterday about the 5-hour gap, and the judge cuts her off. Miss Abba, your 5 hours have not been established. You might be well advised to refer to the tap. She says, what? Trump's other lawyer, Madeo, who's also with Alina's firm. He says, Your Honor, this is an important point here. Can we please have a sidebar? He says, I'll allow it for now. They walk up. The husher goes on. Psh. They're back at the tables. Judge Kaplan says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I referred to an email, but it may have been a tweet. You're going to see it in evidence. That's all. Ms. Abba. She says, thank you, Judge. Ms. Carroll, the White House statement, it was not President Trump's statement. You'd agree with that, right? It was not. And so you're not suing about the White House statement or the cut. This is not clear, says the judge. And Abba says, well, I'm trying to clear it up if you'd let me ask. Kaplan says, no, let's clear it up. Ms. Carroll, in the magazine, The Cut, it said that President Trump denied. Now, you're not suing on that, are you? She says, I am not. So the judge literally just stole Alina's cross-examination for her. Okay. Let me do my cross-examination, Judge. Thank you. Nope, I'm going to do it. Kaplan says, so you're suing about what Trump said. The second time was on June 22nd, right? Yes. Okay, now it's clear as a bell. Go on, Miss Abba. She's like, what the heck are you doing? Can I please ask? Now, what's happening here, my friends, just so you're aware, is, a cross-examination is like a performance, right? You want to draw it out. Like you're playing an instrument or listening to a song. It's got that slow build-up. You're telling a story. It's a presentation for the jury. You're building to a climactic event, to a climax, a crescendo. And you can't do that when you're in the middle of preparing and the judge just says, I'll shut up for a second. I'll do this. Shut up. Sit down. And then, boom, goes boom, boom, boom. Okay, she gets all the same points out, but you don't get this nice, beautiful cross-examination, like literally. So he steals it from her, right? Deflates everything. Oh, now it's clear as a bell. And the jury's like looking at her, like, why did that just happen? Why did he just take away her cross-exam? So he goes, now it's clear as a bell, Miss Abba. Now that I've wrecked it, here, let me give it back to you. Why don't you go ahead? So she says, okay. Miss Carroll, before the $7,000 that you were paid for the Cut article, Judge Kaplan objects for the plaintiff. Says, objection, argumentative. That's argumentative. Don't say that. Did you get, so in other words, Roberta Kaplan, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, did not even object to that. The judge did. Okay, from this transcript, unless we're missing something. The judge is objecting for E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, protecting her from Trump's defense. Before the 7,000, and maybe he's right, maybe it's an argumentative question, right, officially in court, but that's for them to object to, not the judge. Totally inappropriate. So did you get paid $7,000? She fixes her question. Now, no, it went to my publisher. Did you receive negative tweets before the thing? And she says, well, I wasn't on Twitter in the afternoon. Alina says, but you looked at tweets in the evening, didn't you? She says, yes. Well, I was in the hotel room. And did you look at the time that the tweets were sent? Please show this exhibit. And so they pull up this exhibit. What is this? She says. Miss Carroll says, well, it's a tweet. It's a tweet. Does the tweet tag your account? Says Alina. She says, yes. Now the tweet says, Eugene, it says nothing like making up fake news. See that? Yeah. And this one says, drop this lie. Do you see that? Yes. So these are, it looks like comments. Okay. So she posts a tweet. Somebody's tagging your account. Something's going on. Nothing like making up fake news. And someone else is saying to you, right, Eugene? Someone says, drop this lie. Did they tag you? Do they tag you? Carroll says, yes. And is this a reply to your tweet? Carroll says, yes, it is. So this is a reply. So somebody else mentioned that. Now, Alina says, okay, this person is called, in this reply tweet, it's called Power to the Polish, like the shoes. Oh, like polish. Power to the polish, like shoe polish. Is that right? And the judge says, well, that person probably meant the Polish, like the country. You know, power to the Polish. And Alina says, yeah, maybe. Power to the Polish, power to the polish. What do I know? Anyways, does this account tag your account, Eugene? Yes. And the judge, Roberta, Eugene's lawyer, says, we object under your prior rulings, Your Honor. Alina says, well, this came before President Trump's statements. And the judge says it's stricken. So just to be clear what this is, remember, Eugene, this is about causation. Eugene Carroll says Trump said something bad about her, and then she came under attack. Remember, the timeline is Eugene publishes this article. About 5 hours go by. Trump responds to the article. He says, all made up, she's a liar. The article was live, so a bunch of people read it, and a bunch of people were already responding to her. And that's what Alina's pointing out. You posted some stuff. These are reply to your tweets. What do these people say? Bad stuff. They were kind of, sending some harassment to her. And it tags their account. So the judge says it is stricken. Those cannot come in. And now Miss Carroll, Abba says, Miss Carroll, what is this? And she says, oh, that's a tweet. And yes, that tweet also tags me. Okay, so you wrote this at 3:22 p.m. Is this right? This is one of your tweets, yeah. It says that your book must need pumping. So someone else responded to that, right? Your book must need pumping. Yeah, the tweet is from 3:22 p.m. And the 3:22 p.m. tweet, when somebody was saying this like about your book, because you're like out there shilling Trump, attack me, that's before Donald Trump, President Trump, made his statement at 5:17, right? She says, yeah, it looks like, yeah, that was one of my posts. And this reply, I offer it as defense exhibit number 69. And Carroll's lawyer says, Your Honor, this is cumulative. We don't need that as another exhibit. We'll stipulate that it came in before 5:17. And I don't know if that, came in or not. But Abba continues, says, Ms. Carroll, you posted here, you said, the most dangerous woman is the woman who has nothing to lose. Remember, you posted that? And this reply here to that post, it calls you a lying sack of crap. You see that one? And that person who called you a lying sack of crap, that was before President Trump made his statement, wasn't it? She says, right, it was. Now, they would not have been able to speak to you if you were not on Twitter at that time, right? Objection sustained. That's stricken. I think Alina's trying to make the point, well, how did they respond to your post if you didn't have a post, kind of a thing? Objection stricken. Now, how about this one from the Rodeo Clown? This user is Rodeo Clown. Do you see Rodeo Clown over here? She says yes. Is Rodeo Clown replying to you? And the judge cuts her off. Do you have any more of these? Says the judge. And Alina says, yeah, I got 6 more of these. I got 6 of them, Judge. I want to show you every single one of these replies, okay? Because the whole crux of this case, remember, is that Eugene says, Trump said something, I got all these bad threatening attacks. Wow, weird. Alina wants to go through the show, wants to play the music, wants to let the song play through. She says, yeah, I have 6 more of these. And I want to go through every one of them, one after another. And the judge cuts her off. Says, well, I'll admit them if there's no objection. But you've taken enough time on this. I don't want to hear any of these other things. And Alina Abba says, what, Your Honor? May I be heard? Judge Kaplan, no, you can't. And Alina says, Your Honor, this one says to her, and I want to read this for all the jurors to hear. It says, you're a joke. No one would willingly touch your ugly A. And this one was also before 5:17 p.m. And Judge Kaplan says, everyone knows the time, Alina. Just give me the numbers. What are your numbers? What are your defense exhibit numbers? And he's looking through them. Okay, 72, 73, 74, 75, 78. The judge doesn't want her to emphasize this. So he cuts her off and just gobbles it up. Carroll's lawyer says, can we have the copies? I can't read these fast enough. And Alina says, Your Honor, I can't ask these questions. I can't ask about these. Says, with all due respect, Your Honor. Kaplan says, with all due respect, when I rule, you go on. So Alina goes back and says, okay, so Carroll, so do you objection from the plaintiff? Judge says, sustained, stricken. Alina says, on what basis, Your Honor? He says, move on. Move on. Okay, so I guess he just is not going to allow her to ask any of the questions about all of the threatening, harassing messages that she got before Trump even spoke a word. Judge just doesn't want to hear it. Now, he's going to admit it, right? Just to be fair, to be clear, like they're going to come in, the jury is going to see it in front of them, but Alina doesn't get to play it out, doesn't get to rub it in and see her reaction. Oh, so you didn't see that either? Okay, you didn't see this one? You didn't see this one, and you didn't see this one while all this was happening, attacking her credibility, watching her body language, making it hurt and painful to her because it is, in my opinion, dishonest. Of course she saw all that stuff. Of course she was getting abuse and harassment before Donald Trump ever said anything because that's how the internet is. When you make claims and make allegations, yeah, people are going to be upset about it and have an opinion about it. If you don't want that to happen, don't put yourself out there in front of all of, okay, and then she's going to say, well, I'm a victim and all the, okay, that's the point, right? And you can't automatically attribute it to the rich guy who you're trying to victimize. There's other causation. It came from other people, not Trump. So the judge cleans it up. It's just disgusting. I mean, it's not even fair. Alina doesn't even have a fair shot. You're going to have a bunch of people who say, there's a fair trial. There's a judge. There's a jury and all this crap. Wrong. The judge is limiting her cross-examination. And by the way, when she was making objections on the direct exam, the judge was telling her, save it for cross. So there's just nothing that she can do. So he says, move on. And she's like pleading with him. With all due respect, Your Honor, can I please? And with all due respect, he tells her to move on. So she does. Ms. Carroll, wouldn't you agree that negative tweets are not necessarily tied to the president's statement? She says, well, they follow Trump. They want to emulate him. Well, I showed you earlier tweets. Objection. Alina continues. Well, why do you believe that? How can they emulate Trump if they came before Trump? Carroll says, well, they're standing up for a man that they admire. So Trump's responsible for that? Judge Kaplan says, Miss Abba, move on. Miss Carroll, did you authorize the excerpt that was published? She said, well, I agreed with the final edit, and I also agreed that it should go live. Miss Carroll, what is your Substack called? She says, it's called Ask E. Jean. And you make what, 70,000 on that? She says, no, now it's 100,000. Nice Substack. Sheesh. Good money in these claims. Now, and there's royalties also, yes. Now, I hate to ask E. Jean, but how old are you? I'm 80. And so you make more now than you did before, right? Yes. And your Substack was popular as soon as you started it in 2021. Is that true? It just was popular right away? Well, it's a lot of work. Well, you make a lot. And Judge Kaplan says, Miss Abba, this is evidence 101. Miss Carroll, when there is an objection, you should sit quietly until I rule. Apparently there was an objection. Judge Kaplan says, I'll take it from here, Alina. Miss Carroll, what was your gross income in 2023? $70,000, but now more because I write more. Alina says, well, how many subscribers do you have? Kaplan says, that was already asked yesterday. Abba said, I don't know if it was. Well, what was the number of subscribers? Kaplan says, 1,800. Move on. Miss Carroll, do you have Social Security? Yeah. Do you have a pension? No, but I do have stocks. Well, how much? Objection. Sustained. Do you consider yourself a financially successful person? Objection. Sustained. Miss Carroll, did you publish a text asking if a person would have sex with Trump for $17,000? Objection. Sustained. Now, you testified, Miss Carroll, that you were upset because certain tweets made you appear promiscuous. Is that true? Yes. Did you post sexually explicit tweets? Objection. Sustained. Can't ask about that. Ms. Abba says, I'd like to offer you defense exhibit number 80. Objection, Your Honor. Sidebar. Whisper goes on. Psh. And they're back. Judge Kaplan says, the objection is sustained. It's remote in time, and it's of dubious value, and it's prejudicial. So nothing is coming in. Okay, well, how about defense exhibit number 44? What is this? Carroll says that's a tweet. Well, I move to admit it. Objection. Sustained. No tweets are coming in. Alina says you wrote, how do you know if your sexual advance is unwanted until you actually advance it? Is this tweet still up? Yes. And this says, show the man what you like or he'll regret he even has a wiener. Isn't this like objection? Sustained? So all of her other statements, right? All of her other debauched statements cannot come in. Abba says, well, what does this mean? What can be done about the penis, about the man's thing? She says, well, it's a philosophical question. Discussing wieners is a philosophical question? Yeah, we discussed wieners. Okay, well, defense exhibit 88, I move to admit it. Objection. Carroll's lawyer says this is too old, 2010. Sustained. It's all too far away, right? So the judge is now keeping this all out. He's saying it's too far. It's remote in time, and it's of dubious value, and it's prejudicial. So all of her other whack job statements where she's talking about hot dogs and heat being hot dogs or whatever. Weird, right? All of it, it's too far. It's all prejudicial. It's all irrelevant. All of her weird, sex stuff about 17,000 for Trump and her obsessions, all irrelevant. She keeps trying. Okay, so you had philosophical conversations about genitals. Got it. Now, did the verdict in the case last year where you got $5 million with greater status in New York, did it provide you with greater status in New York? She says yes. A feeling of triumph. You did media? Oh yeah, we did 5 TV appearances, and I posted twice on my Substack about it, and on my Twitter, and on my Instagram. Did you speak with reporters? She said, yeah, we did, at my lawyer's office. We spoke with the New York Times. We also spoke with a group of the reporters. And have you done any press since then? So I live a quiet life. And you've been on left-leaning platforms. Is that true? Objection. Sustained. They are left-leaning, Judge. Did you not hear me? Okay, you went on TV, right, Abba? She's probably talking about MSNBC or something. Just like, leave that out. You went on TV, right? Yeah, to say we'd won this milestone case. And Abba says, well, what is this? Judge says, you're trying to get her to read it to you. So, okay, I'll ask, is this your number of Twitter followers? And she says, yeah, it's a lot. I worked for it. And these Twitter followers, they help your stories go out, right? It's for distribution. Substack doesn't have that. You got to distribute on Twitter, right? Yes. Now, after the last trial, celebrities reached out to you, right? Like, didn't John Cusack, Dementoid, reach out to you? I don't know. And did Miss Sorvino reach out to you? She says, yes, thanks for reminding me. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis and Rob Reiner and Bette Midler, all these people who all look like each other, they all reached out to her. Says, yes, it was great. It was so great. I finally have become famous. And you've been invited to parties, right? Oh, yeah, I went to 2 at Molly Jong-Fast's place, who's like an ultra leftoid. Who does she write for these days for Vanity Fair? And what's your handle on Instagram? I only go on twice a month or so. That's good for everyone. Abba says, do you feel you were more recognized today than you were in June of 2019? Perfectly great question. Objection sustained. You've been provided the opportunity of hosting your own Substack. Isn't that right, Abba? Objection as to the tone. I don't like your tone. Judge probably sustained it. Carroll says, I'm in this trial to bring my old reputation back. And so Abba says, so you're suing Donald Trump to get your old reputation back. Is that right? Yes. Abba says, no further questions. Judge Kaplan says, we'll take our break. Boom, thread will continue. Now, we fast forward, Inner City Press reporting. He tells us, Judge Kaplan on redirect. Roberta Kaplan is now up. The plaintiff's lawyer says, very brief. Ms. Carroll, did Donald Trump have his office in the White House? Objection. Judge Kaplan says, what's about where his office was? Abba says, I know what she's trying to do. Sidebar, they're back. She skips that question. Roberta says, did any of the tweets before Donald Trump's statement call you a Democratic operative or say that you should be AR'd? No, I never got those messages. How do you know? I mean, this is so rigged. Alina can't ask about all of her other tweets and show any of those tweets, but then she can ask about the broad universe of all the tweets. Got it. Miss Abba asked you about being on magazine covers. Did you reveal your account of what Mr. Trump did to be on covers? Objection. Judge says overruled, obviously. Carroll says, no. Did you expect backlash? Objection. Already asked and answered. Overruled. Alina, shut up. Carroll says yes. Did what Donald Trump say make the backlash worse? Yes, it was worse. We like to enter Plaintiff's Exhibit 164. Miss Abba says, do you plan to play what he said? And she says, yes, I do. And I have a transcript. Abba says, okay, no objection. So they play a video of Trump in front of flags on Newsmax. He says, it's a rigged deal. I don't know her. Abba says, play the whole thing. If you're going to play it, play the whole thing. Play it. And Abba says, Your Honor, they cut out the part about E. Jean. Judge Kaplan says, he said the whole thing is made up. That's not about her. We'll pass over this for now. So the judge says, well, that's good enough. They heard enough of what they saw. At least play it. If you're going to play it, play it. No, that's enough. Thank you, Roberta. Perfect. That segment is exactly the little slice that we need to make him look bad. Forget about the rest of it. That's it. Perfect. Thank you. We're done. Alina, shut up. He said it's close enough. Roberta says, perfect. No further questions. Perfect. Recross? She says, yeah, I'll be brief. Was it your choice to do the article with the cut? Yes. Did you delete those tweets? She says, yeah, my heart was racing. Please answer the question. I don't precisely remember deleting them. Have you ever deleted threats that have come to you? Yes. On what platforms? Twitter, Facebook. Objection sustained. Your Honor, I want to pull up Defense Exhibit 72. Objections, Your Honor. He says, well, I haven't seen it, so put it on my screen. All right, I'm looking. Is there a question? Miss Abba says, do you recognize this? Is this your Twitter handle? She says, yeah. I'd like to move that into evidence. Objection sustained. Well, how about Defense Exhibit 74? She says, if you're going to do this, Judge, if you're going to do this on each one of them, are there objections? And Roberta says, well, we asked to meet and confer. No, you did not. That is a misrepresentation. And Kaplan says, well, you're asking to reopen up the direct exam. Abba says, no, I'll look it up. He says, you go do that. Well, I would like to go one by one, Your Honor. There are only 6. You will not go one by one, he says. Well, I want it preserved for the record. And he says, you think you did? Abba says, did you speak, Miss Carroll, after yesterday with any attorneys like George Conway? No more questions. Judge says, thank you, Miss Carroll. You're excused for the day. And we're done. And so we carry on. Now, Inner City Press jumped over to a different proceeding. And so for this little bit, we'll see what the direct exam looked like. Now, we're very familiar with this person because we already heard her testify in the original trial. Her name is Professor Ashley Humphreys. We're going to go through her direct exam very quickly. Katie Fang was there reporting. She's over from MSNBC. So she's there. She says Professor Humphreys testified in Carroll's first defamation trial, was also the expert for Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Perfect. So she says, so she's on the stand, they call her. We call this professor up. Tell us about your experience. I'm very experienced. Tell us about what you know about the internet, everything. Now, can you calculate and tell us how much it cost, how much the defamatory statements from Donald Trump, can you tell us how much the reputational impact and the cost of repair would be in order to repair all these damages? In her expert opinion, she says the cost to repair the damages is $7.2 million to $12.1 million. That's a lot. That's a lot. And so, as you can see, that was a short direct exam. Now, we come back over to Inner City Press, and he's back. He had to go to a different courtroom. And now it sounds like we've got cross-examination going up. So Ashley Humphreys is back on the bench. Says Trump's lawyer, his name is Madeo. He works with Alina. Says, okay, Professor Humphreys. Now, can I show you this as a demonstrative? Kaplan says, are you offering it as evidence? He says, well, I don't think it's been provided. He says, what did you say? Excuse me? Is there any objection to this? Carroll's lawyer says no. Judge says, fine, you can show it. So it's a graph of Carroll's search volume after the cut, and then Trump's statements after 1 and 2. And he's showing her like the search trends. He's like, okay, so right after the cut posted the article, like obviously people started searching for her like immediately, right? So some of it, of this search volume, after everybody goes, who is this woman? E. Jean Carroll? What? Rape? What? Some of that is due to her accusation, right? And she says, well, the chart is by day. It's not by hours, right? So it's like, that's one day and that's another day. It's like, well, it's hard to, because she's trying to obfuscate this. They're trying to bundle it up. So it's all Trump's, rather than saying, well, we have this hour by hour breakdown. In the first hour, there was a bunch more search volume. Says, okay, well, in your first report, though, you said, and Kaplan says, oh, so now you're reading from the report that you don't want to put in? Is that what you're doing? Carroll's lawyer says objection. So Kaplan is now cutting this guy off. He says, okay, well, Judge, it's her report. So all I'm trying to do is just refresh her recollection. Can I refresh your recollection with your own stupid report? Judge says, okay, yeah, maybe. Now, Madeo continues. He says, this is also, since you're an expert on this online stuff, this is the interview with CNN New Day. You see that? She says, yeah, I see it. And now this is Anderson Cooper 360. Carroll's lawyer says, objection, Your Honor. We don't want that in. Judge Kaplan says, okay, let's send the jury out for a few minutes, and we're going to send this professor out too. Well, I got a clear house here. And so the judge says, okay, so the jury's out. He says, all right, listen, everybody. And Alina says, Your Honor, the witness is still sitting right here. She's still here. And Kaplan says, well, she was at the door when you stood up. And so what's your point, counsel? And what's your point, counsel? Why are you showing all these graphs in my courtroom? Madeo says, Trump's lawyer, says, well, the spike in interest, like there's a spike in the graph. Like it's like she said the allegation, everything went up. Is that in the supplemental report? Carroll's lawyer says no. And Kaplan says, well, what I do know is you folks submitted papers that said the following, as I remember. Said, I make an error in this because I'm only human. Now, you asked for a supplemental report eliminating the impact from AC 360 program. Do you agree so far? And Kaplan says, and then you got the supplemental report that eliminates AC 360, and you were told that witnesses would not offer any data on that, right? Well, it was to remove President Trump's June 24th statement. But Kaplan says, you claimed the data was still in there. Yeah. So you're confused because there had been a renumbering in the supplemental report. Is that right so far? Yes, but work with me, he says. So I issued an order that there appeared to be confusion. Is that right? So what are we talking about here? Madeo says we're trying it back to the chart. There was a spike on June 24th. She claims it's due to the statement by Trump, but it ignores Miss Carroll's June 24th appearance. Now, Sean Crowley for Roberta Kaplan's team says the expert said that she was not attributing the Google traffic to that. It didn't come from her appearance. Says, I don't want there to be a suggestion that the Anderson Cooper is in the report, but I want the rest excluded because it contains references to DNA and to other topics that are out of bounds because it's already all been decided. So I'd like to show chart 11. Crowley says, no, that's misleading. Kaplan says, well, I'll let you make the point that you want to make if you can make it. There is no reference to Anderson Cooper, though, and then we're going to take a break for 10 minutes. Now, Inner City Press has some great reports and some great reporting over on his Amazon pages, and we're back after the break. So Roberta Kaplan says, Your Honor, Dr. Humphreys lives in Chicago and has kids. Can we stay past 4:30 to finish the cross-exam? He says, well, what about the jury? You know, I think we can do this a lot more efficiently if, and the jury's now entering. Now, there's a figure that they put on the screen, Trump's lawyer. Ms. Carroll, I want to ask you about this news article. This news article, it says, E. Jean Carroll is a crazy person. Sounds like an accurate one. It says, is this attributable? Oh, this is Humphreys, the expert. Is this attributable to Donald Trump, that magazine article? Well, she says, well, these mirror his language. So, yeah, he's guilty. Execute him. Your Honor, I'd like to ask about the next ones. He says, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. So in your opinion, Miss Expert, is it uncommon for Twitter users to make negative comments when discussing, polarized topics? What do you mean by uncommon? Kaplan says, all right, we're wasting time now. Big time. We all agree that Lincoln was the 16th. Let's move on. Ms. Humphreys, did you see any positive messages about Miss Carroll? Yes, I did, but I did not count them in my damages report. So did you consider if the positive offset the negative? Judge says, all right, come up here to the sidebar. He's like, I want to see if you offset it. They come up. Psh, now they're back. Madeo says, well, what about these positive comments from Alyssa Milano? And the plaintiff says, Your Honor, these are after the verdict in the first case, and they're not even a part of this case. And he says, yeah, get on to something relevant, says the judge. Ms. Humphreys, do you consider if Miss Carroll makes more money now? Kaplan says, no, don't ask her about that. You can argue that in closing. This is a cross-examination. He says, fine, I'll move on. Madeo says, Ms. Humphreys, you estimated that this was a $10 million spread of damages, somewhere around $10 million spread. Well, I don't think one time would be enough. Have you ever executed a reputation repair program? Have you ever done something like this? No, never. So you have no real world experience? Judge Kaplan says, well, there was birth, there was adolescence. Those are real world experiences. What on earth? Madeo says, you're familiar with a reputation repair firm? She says, I'm with one? Yes. And you're aware how much it can cost? Well, I'm aware of one that costs $50 million. It's a hedge fund manager. So in your program, you talk about social media influencers and about improving E. Jean's reputation. Do you think that it would have that effect? Well, as part of a wider campaign, you said that they could, praise her books. Do you think that would change people from thinking she's a liar? Or do you think they would still think she's a liar if she just said her books are good? Yes, over time, it impacts the view of the audience because we're all so stupid they can just propagandize into thinking she's not a demented weirdo. Now, Madeo says, do you think that her media appearances have helped her? Objection outside the scope. Alina says, I can't even hear what she said. It's outside the scope of her report. Do you really think that you could hire Joe Rogan and Candace Owens to do this? She says, yes, I believe that they do think that she could hire Joe Rogan and Candace Owens. Is your damages model, does it account for real world harm? Objection, sustained. So he's beating up her model, and they're being protected by the judge. Okay, let's look at this page 30 of your supplemental report. She says, can I have a copy? Yeah, here it is. Crowley says, from the Roberta's team, I understand he's going to ask about a TV appearance that was removed from the report. He says, no, let's get to your initial report. T1 AC360, right? Yeah. You have the rating estimated at 877,000 people for Anderson Cooper. But your damages report at page 29 says 9.4 million. What is this? She says, well, that's just comparing ratings to impressions. Is there a difference? Well, there were some labeling issues. So the larger number was ABC News with David Muir, and it's that the labels just do not correspond. Well, why not? Well, the overall results are the same if the labels are wrong. Okay, so let's go back to the initial report at page 105. T3, this one's called Cuomo Primetime. Remember that guy? It's 936,000, yeah? And the plaintiff says, Professor Humphreys has already testified. And Abba says, is that an objection? She's just talking, Your Honor. Because remember yesterday, Alina got scolded for not using one-word objections. And so she just starts talking. She's just rambling off over there. Is there an objection? And Alina's standing up now at attention. Judge Kaplan says, Miss Abba, sit down, please. Mr. Medeo will defend himself. He says, well, I would like thorough examples. I think it's very relevant. And judge says, keep on walking, buddy. He says, is the bottom line here that the numbering changed when you eliminated certain items from the original report? Well, I'm looking at the same information. Well, did you review the supplemental report before you signed it? Well, I didn't check the labels. Kaplan says, oh, it was a labeling error. She said it again and again. Okay, it's a labeling error. This is all in front of the jury, by the way. If you want to take everyone's time with this, go ahead. The judge is cutting him off, and making him look stupid in front of the jury. He says, yeah, I'm going to take my time on this. It's important. She doesn't know what the hell her report says. T37 here, first look here. It says it's 385,000. The 385, but then you go back to T37 in the supplemental and it's now 1.4 million. She said, but that's really T33. He says, well, I strike that as non-responsive. That's overruled. Judge says, let me see if I can short circuit this. Okay, her numbers are way off. So your damages numbers are just made up. 385,000, 1.4 million, and another thing. Judge cuts him off. Let me see if I can short circuit this because this is pretty damaging to Roberta's case. Turn to page 105. It's the TV impressions model. It lists each show included in your original analysis, correct? Judge is taking over right there. She says, yes, Judge, correct. Medeo says, Your Honor, I would like to continue my line of questioning, please. Good for him. Can I have my questions back? He says, I'm sure you would. And you'll get your chance, but I'm not done yet. Professor Humphreys, the supplemental report, it does not list each show, right? Correct. Medeo says, did you check these? No. Humphreys, you have a Twitter account, correct? Yeah. And it was public until recently, wasn't it? Yeah. Why'd you take it private? Well, I had a few high-profile trials. Because you knew you might receive nasty messages, right? E. Jean Carroll could have made her account private, right? Objection. No further questions. You knew that was coming. Redirect. Crowley shows up for the plaintiff. Okay, that was his mic drop moment, right? E. Jean Carroll could have made her account private, right? Objection. Obviously knew that's coming. No further questions. And that's the mitigation, right? She didn't do anything. She was salivating over this. She was chomping at the bit to go be a part of this. Redirect. Roberta's team jumps up. Crowley says, Miss Humphreys, about the labeling. Objection, Your Honor. You did this. He says, nope, not your witness. Okay, Mike, Your Honor. So Alina objects and turns it back over to Mike. Your Honor. And I don't know what happens. Carroll says, for the TV broadcast, did the ratings stay the same? Humphrey says, yeah, they stayed the same. Did you do the word cloud after the first case? After he tried to get the DOJ into the first case is when I did it. Now, is that why Department of Justice is in the word cloud? Because I would think so. Do you teach reputation repair campaigns? Yes, many of my students work in PR. Can you give me some examples of campaigns? Oh yeah, we talked about Justin Bieber. She's a professor, right? Martha Stewart, Hugh Grant. What caused the harm to Miss Carroll's reputation? Well, the harm was that she lied for the Democratic Party. And who said that? Trump said that. Nothing further. Mr. Medeo, anything further? He says yes, briefly. Ms. Humphreys, when did you learn of the labeling error? I was asked by email about it a couple days ago. And how did you know that there are not more errors? Well, I'm confident. How much did Martha Stewart pay for her campaign? I don't know. And Taylor Swift? I don't know. Nothing further. Judge Kaplan says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have a good weekend. We're done. No trial on Friday, so they're done for the weekend. Judge Kaplan leaves the bench. No questions, no word about Trump coming Monday. Trump is coming Monday, and we're looking forward to Trump can come Monday. We don't know if Trump is coming Monday, but he can come to testify if he wants. And so the expert so-called witness has now been completed. Damages estimated to be around $10 to $12 million, and inner city press reporting. That is day 3, my friends. And so, as always, we want to thank Inner City Press. We want to really encourage you to go give him a follow. Matthew Russell Lee is his name. Please support his work. We wouldn't be able to do these recreations if it were not for him reporting accurately, reporting truthfully, and sharing the goodness of what's happening inside those courtrooms. So thank you to Inner City Press, my friends. That was trial day 3. We will be here continuing to cover the rest of this trial and the rest of the Trump saga, because this will be continuing on, no doubt about it. And before we see you on the next one, don't forget to go over to robertgovea.com. The link is down in the description below. If you want to access any of the PDFs we talk about on this show or sign up for our daily newsletter, that's where you do it, robertgovea.com. And the link is in the description below. We'll look forward to seeing you there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, let's jump in to our second segment on the day and see what we have cooking, because Jack Smith has a little bit of a setback. Starting now. Jack Smith loses. Judge Chutkan says, no more filing for you. You've been called out, and you're not allowed to do that anymore. We know that Jack Smith's January 6th case is in Judge Chutkan's courtroom, kind of. It's really on appeal. It's at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. We're waiting on a ruling from them about whether there is presidential immunity and other things, and we're excited to get that one when it comes back down. But while it's been pending, Jack Smith has been filing motions hand over fist because he wants this case to go right back on track. He wants the March 4th trial date, the day before Super Tuesday, and if the Court of Appeals goes quickly, then maybe he can get his trial in before the election. But if they don't, he's going to be stuck. So he's been working, even though the case is not there. Everything is held in abeyance while the case is on appeal. And so there was a back and forth. We've already covered Trump's motion to hold him in contempt of court, a motion requesting that there be an order to show cause. So he gets called to the principal's office to explain himself. And now Judge Chutkan has issued an order and Jack Smith gets in trouble. We're going to talk about what it looks like. Here is the filing, the official opinion and order. Judge Chutkan writes this out of the District of Columbia. Case, of course, is the January 6th case. United States of America, illegitimate Jack Smith against Donald Trump. This is her opinion and order after several filings have already been submitted. First, Donald Trump, the president, submitted a motion for an order to show cause. He said, Jack Smith, how dare you file motions for discovery? How dare you submit motions in limine and continue this litigation when the judge has already said we're stopped? And they wanted him to be held in contempt because he kept filing. Now, Trump contends that the government violated a court order by continuing to produce discovery and by filing his motions when the case is stayed. Trump argued, he said, to remedy this outrageous conduct from illegitimate Jack Smith, who's not even lawfully appointed, saying the court should issue an order to show cause as to why Jack and his deranged thugs should not be held in contempt, required to immediately withdraw their motion and all their other improper discovery productions, and also be forbidden from submitting any further filings absent the court's express permission, pending the stay. And also they want attorney's fees and other expenses for having to respond to these illegal motions and these improper productions. So Trump asked for 4 things. Let's see what the judge does with each one of them. It says, for the reasons below, I'm going to grant some of this, which is Trump's motion, and deny the other parts. Let's see what happens. Here's the background. They say Donald Trump, this is Chutkan writing, says Donald Trump has appealed my decision denying his motion to dismiss based on presidential immunity and constitutional grounds. Now, on December 13th, the court granted in part and denied in part Donald Trump's motion to stay all of these proceedings pending that appeal. Now, in the stay order, me, Judge Chutkan, the court, I agreed with both parties that Trump's appeal automatically stays any further proceedings that would move this case towards trial or impose additional burdens. And accordingly, the court stayed the deadlines and the proceedings as amended. This is the judge referencing her own writing. Now, the court emphasized, however, that the stay order, quote, held in abeyance rather than permanently vacated those deadlines and proceedings, and that it did not understand the appeal and the corresponding stay to divest it of jurisdiction, meaning that Judge Chutkan can still gag him and still control all of that stuff. Because unlike, requiring discovery and those other things, it does not advance the case towards trial or impose any other burdens of litigation, so she can still control his gag. Now, on December 17th and 18th, respectively, the government produced additional discovery and a draft exhibit list to Trump. Right? This was after the stay was already in place. Now, the defense objected to the government. We read that here. And then on December 27th, Jack Smith filed another motion seeking to exclude certain evidence and arguments from the trial, and the media ran with that one. Now, other than noting his objections and filing his motion, this motion, Trump has not responded to the government's actions. Right, he's refused to because the case is stayed. Now, the court has likewise not taken any action or imposed any new requirements on the parties. And so, notwithstanding the deadlines and proceedings, the judge says there is no dispute that the court retains jurisdiction and thus any contempt proceedings that flow from it. Now, she gives us the standard. Says, civil contempt is used to obtain compliance, and you must show why you need to hold someone in contempt. Very high standard. We don't just throw it around. Now, the stay order from the judge did not clearly, this is Judge Chutkan protecting Jack, did not clearly and unambiguously prohibit Jack from doing the things that he did. My fault, says the judge. I should have been more clear. You were clear. She says, I can't believe she's doing this. Now, start with its operative sentences, which stayed the deadlines and the proceedings scheduled by its order as amended. Now, the order set certain proceeding dates, like the trial, which was for March 4th, and other deadlines. And before the stay order, the parties were required to attend those proceedings. And by holding those dates in abeyance, says the judge, the stay order lifted those requirements, and it reflects the court's conclusion that Trump should not stand trial or face other burdens like those deadlines. But staying the deadline for a filing is not the same thing as affirmatively prohibiting it. Oh, this is some serious lawyer talk. The deadline for filing, staying the deadline for filing is not the same thing as affirmatively prohibiting it. Now, the basic function of a deadline is to not authorize a filing, but to time limit it. And so correspondingly, the lifting of the deadline removes that time limits, but it does not necessarily bar the filing. On its own terms, then, the stay order's key operative sentence did not clearly bar the government from voluntary rather than obligatory compliance with their now stayed deadlines. They get everything thrown their way. It's disgusting. Now, the rest of the stay order did not unambiguously forbid their actions. So it's like, you tell a child, don't do that thing. And the child's like, well, Like, for example, my younger brother, Eric, rest in peace, love you, bro. You know, we had at one point in our lives, we had different rooms. We used to like have 3 boys in a bunk bed most of my life. But at one point we had different rooms. And I think I got my own room the first time. And, you know, what he would do is he would come to my door in my room and I would say, "Don't you come in my room." And you know what he would do, as little brothers do? He would stick his arm in the doorway like this. And he'd say, "Well, I'm not technically in your room. I'm just above your room. I'm not in it. What are you going to do about it?" And then I'd say, "That's it. You're done, buddy." And then we get into brawls, you know, whatever would happen. But that's what's happening here. So the judge is like siding with the younger brother. He's like, technically, he didn't know that he couldn't do it. You're like, come on, judge. You know what this is. I'm not in your room. I'm not in your room. Yes, you are. I didn't break your order. Yes, you did, Jack. You knew what the rule was. Punk. Gosh. So here, Trump then claims Trump claims that my order contained an explicit holding that additional discovery and briefing would violate it. Well, that's incorrect. The stay order reasoned that requiring additional discovery would advance the case, but neither the court nor the government imposed any requirement. And as defendant acknowledges, he has, consistent with his rights under the stay order, refused to accept or respond. And so since he didn't really respond, I guess he didn't really enter the room. Moreover, Jack Smith's productions and filings have been mostly compatible with our broader purpose. He's kind of got it. No, he is not. He's actively trying to go against the broader purpose. The broader purpose is to stay, which is to relieve Trump from the burdens of preparing for trial. Now, the court cannot conclude that merely receiving discovery or an exhibit list constitutes a meaningful burden. That's the judge's opinion. Imagine if this was like opposite. Imagine if this was like Trump trying to do this. They'd hold, you know, my gosh, he wouldn't even try anything like this because his lawyers would be held in contempt. Now, that receipt requires no review or response, which is ridiculous because it obviously does. You have to look at what they're sending you. It's like in the mail. Like you get a letter from like the MVD or something like that. Like, well, I'm kind of on hold. Like, no, you got to look at it, right? Even if you think you have no obligation to respond to it. Like you got to just see what it is. It's knocking at your door. It's negligence, honestly, to your client to not monitor the docket. So Trump argues that he must preserve his rights by clarifying that he will not accept a discovery. But Trump does not identify, and the court's not aware, of any rights that would not be preserved absent such an objection, given the stays in place. Well, oh my gosh. Judge, we know what you're going to do. You're going to say he should have been responding to this, and you're going to accelerate the trial. That's exactly why Trump has to make his mark. Trump is etching into the record, I'm not reading your garbage that you're sending over to me. Because when this comes back down, Chutkan's going to say, you should have been reading it. They're saying, I told you he didn't. And she's unhappy about this, right? She's kind of clarifying this. Like she knows what they're asking about, but she doesn't want to address it. But because the stay order appears to have been interpreted differently by the parties, that's your fault, Judge. The court will clarify. You should have done that at the beginning. If Trump wishes to raise objections to the government productions, he may do so without risk of any forfeiture if and when the mandate is returned and the court sets a new schedule. Now, contrary to Trump's assertion, the court has not and will not set deadlines in this case based on the assumption that he's undertaken preparations when not required to do so. I don't believe that for a minute. And I got evidence for that because she already said that Trump doesn't need to read the discovery in this case, all 14 million pages of it, because he should have been reading it before he was even indicted. You remember that little scam? Your Honor, there's no way we can read this between now and March. She says, well, you should have been reading it for the last 2 years because he knew he was going to get indicted and he's got a lot of money and a lot of lawyers. So she doesn't care whether you even read it or not. Actually, that's the point. She doesn't care whether there are preparations or not. I don't care whether you read it or not. It's your prerogative. Now, in the meantime, he's not required to carry any meaningful burdens, whatever she decides those are, with respect to these productions. Now, the same is largely, but not completely true of the motion in limine. Trump concedes that he is not required to respond to the motion during the pendency of the stay, and the court reaffirms that he doesn't forfeit any arguments or rights by choosing not to respond at this time. But nonetheless, he argues that the government's filing of a substantive motion burdens him by requiring him to review it, to determine whether it's not involved in the appeal and therefore does necessitate a timely response, and it also subjects him to negative coverage. Now, the court agrees with the first contention. At least, diligent defense counsel will need to conduct a preliminary review of each motion that the government files in order to know whether they need to take action. Even she can't deny that. Now, while that is not a major burden, yeah, right, it is a cognizable one. I will recognize it. Accordingly, the court will adopt Trump's recommendation that the parties are forbidden, Jack. You're forbidden, punk, from filing any further substantive pretrial motions without first seeking leave from the court. Any such motion for leave shall state whether the motion is ancillary to the proceeding, pending appeal, and so requires a timely response or action before the mandate is returned. Now, this measure, in addition to the stay order, is aimed to advance its purposes, does not reflect a determination that the government has violated any of its clear terms or acted in bad faith. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Here's Judge Chutkan saying, for these reasons, Trump's motion for why Jack Smith should be held in contempt is granted in part and denied in part. Specifically, it's granted in that until the mandate is returned, in this case from the higher court, the parties shall not file any substantive pretrial motions without seeking leave of this court, and any such request for leave shall tell us whether this matter is involved in the appeal or whether it is ancillary to it. In all other respects, Trump's motion is denied. So, no order to show cause, no contempt, but Jack Smith has to be now put back on his leash. Stop going in Trump's room. You're not allowed to do it. You know it. You're trying to snake around the rules because you're deranged. Jack Smith loses. He's now prohibited and forbidden from any further filings on the J6 case. And we'll be here continuing to cover this case and more. Thank you for subscribing, my friends, and checking out Robert Gouveia. The link is down in the description below. And what you can find there is on robertgouveia.com. The link to the PDF and our daily newsletter that goes out every day after the show. We summarize all our segments, package them up nicely, deliver them to your inbox. And that way, when you get them, you can forward them to your entire contact list. And they'll be so happy that you did. They'll thank you for years to come. And so we'll look forward to that and seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. And now we've got one final segment on the day as we get in to the Fani saga. Donald Trump calls the Fani Willis saga and the indictment total BS. Why? Because it might be all connected to a conflict of interest where Fani was funneling $1 million to her lover, Nathan Wade. Alleged lover. We still have to wait and see what her response says. But now we've got 15 media outlets that are now demanding that Nathan Wade's divorce records become unsealed. Trump is responding to this. And as the local news continues to dig in, we see really how out of order these charges are. And this is the clip. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Do I have this clip? This is the clip from Georgia. Let me see if I can find this one. I don't think I have it. Oh, I think I copied and pasted the wrong clip in there. Hang on. Where did I get that from? Let me see if I can find this. It's pretty funny. Local media has this. Let me try to grab it. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, here it is.
Investigative reporter Zach Merchant is joining us now, uncovering new records showing how much...
Okay, this is Zach Merchant. No relation to Ashley Merchant, the defense attorney, who is also behind the filing of the motion. Here's his report. And she's going to add up all of the different numbers. He's going to add them all up and watch which one just doesn't look like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong here.
Nathan Wade has been paid for the case compared to others assigned to it. So, Zach, what did you find here?
Yeah, guys, first off, we want to say we've been on this for a bunch of days now. The accusation that Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade had a relationship with DA Fani-Wade is explosive, but so far unproven. The court filing making that allegation contained no concrete proof. So we're keeping our attention on the money and documents we can independently corroborate.
Perfect.
We spent the last 24 hours looking through Fulton County payment logs and discovered records suggesting Wade was paid substantially more than two other special prosecutors.
That's
on
an
this
understatement.
Case. Without naming him, Fulton County District Attorney Fani-Wade addressed the controversy surrounding Special Counsel Nathan Wade while speaking before the congregation at Big Bethel AME Church over Martin Luther King Day weekend.
I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one.
While that may be true, public records obtained from Fulton County show the amount each were paid differed substantially. Records indicate the DA's office paid Special Prosecutor John Floyd's law firm, Bondurant, Mixon, and Elmore, close to $73,000 between 2022
That's
and
the white
2023.
Guy. That's the white guy.
Special Prosecutor Anna Cross's law firms, Cross Kincaid and the Cross firm, were paid a total of roughly $90,000 during the same years.
White female.
Over the same time period, Fulton County records show the DA's office paid the law offices of Nathan J. Wade more than $650,000.
Those figures sound radically off.
Oh my gosh. Look at those numbers. Look at that. Oh my gosh. That's just, I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that, does it? Look at that.
Were paid a total of roughly $90,000 during the same years. Over the same time period, Fulton County records show the DA's office paid the law offices of Nathan J. Wade more than $650,000.
Wow.
Those figures sound...
That's a lot. That's a lot. Whoo! Right? And so that kind of, oh, gosh. Something feels off on here. I'm not a financial guru or a numbers guy. You guys know that better than anybody. But something just feels weird. I don't know. I think maybe, did they forget to carry a decimal place or something? Did somebody forget to carry the 1 and the 2? I don't know. All right. So anyways, that's the news that's digging into that, right? And that's a good one. I'm glad I was able to find that one. But Trump rightfully calls this all nonsense and total BS. So make sure the kids are in bed, my friends, because the president is going to tell some truth. Here's what it sounds like.
They go after their political opponents with the DOJ and the FBI. That's me. They go after me. I got so many court cases. I've been indicted more than Alphonse Capone. You know who Alphonse Capone? Greatest gangster of all time. He was the #1 of all time. Scarface. Did anybody ever hear? He was a lovely man. If he had dinner, if he took you out to dinner, had dinner with you, and he didn't like the tone of your voice, you were killed. You were guaranteed. I got indicted more than he did, sir. But bullshit indictments, I'll tell you. They're Biden. You know what I call them? I call them, they're Biden indictments. No, they've weaponized the DOJ. They go after their political opponent. Now, in this particular case, didn't work out so well. So our polls are at record numbers. Like last night, we won in the history of Iowa. Nobody's ever come close to getting the kind of numbers I got. If I didn't get indicted all these times, and if they didn't unfairly go after, I would have won, but it would have been much closer, I tell you. I don't know if I would have made the trade. I might have just like the position we're in right now, and we're doing very well on that score. Did you see Fanny? Fanny from Atlanta.
Yeah, Fanny.
She paid her boyfriend, a lawyer, who had no experience as a lawyer and no experience doing what? Almost $1 million. And then they decided to go on beautiful Norwegian cruise lines trips all over the place. He was a very generous person with our money. And he was the guy coming after me. Can you believe it? And they're all, every one of these people. These are corrupt people.
Yes.
These are corrupt. And you know what? Forget about me. They indicted 18 fine people. 18 people like you. In some cases, elderly. They signed a slate, just like Thomas Jefferson did slates. They go slates.
just like they did to me in 2016.
Yep.
They wanted a slate for Alabama that I won by 45 points. Okay, they said maybe he didn't win Alabama, but I won by 45 points. They could have picked something that was a little bit closer, but they go after people and they want to destroy people, and they're evil, and we're putting an end to it, and we're putting an end to it fast.
You're right about that there, Donald Trump. We are putting an end to it, and it is seemingly happening quickly. A lot of people getting a little bit nervous out there with the results in Iowa and what's going to be New Hampshire any day now. So we've got 15 media outlets that are all wanting to learn more about this, and they submitted a filing here in Georgia. Let's take a look at what they want to dig into. Bunch of news people all piling in. Now, this is not the Trump case. This is Nathan Wade versus Jocelyn Wade. Nathan Wade is the Fani Willis special prosecutor who got all that money, all that Trump prosecution money, that government money. And it's Jocelyn Wade, his loving, dedicated housewife who had been married to him for over 20 years, raised their kids, was very supportive until Nathan Wade allegedly entered into a new relationship with Fani, signed a contract, and the next day submitted divorce papers. Home wrecked, thanks to Fani. And so now the media wants to learn more. So do we. Here you can see the motion to unseal comes from the Atlanta Journal, ABC, AP, Bloomberg, CNN's in the house, CBS, we got CMG, Wall Street Journal, Gray Media, Guardian, New York Times, Tenga, WAPO. Everybody wants to get in. Now, this is a motion to unseal. Now, this was by a non-party, also Ashley Merchant, the person who ultimately submitted the motion to dismiss this case on behalf of Mr. Roman. Now this one is scheduled for January 31st. There's a hearing on this one as to whether this should be unsealed. Now, unless otherwise directed by the court, the media interveners will also appear at the hearing and also request that this motion be heard at this time. They say, all right, now the instant action involves the divorce case of Nathan Wade, Fani's alleged lover, and his loving wife, Jocelyn. A filing made by Miss Merchant, a defense lawyer extraordinaire on behalf of Michael Roman, says that the divorce records are relevant. Why? To support the allegation that Fani and Special Prosecutor Wade, they did the following. One, they maintained a relationship that was romantic between Fani and Nathan, that they cohabitated for a period of time, that they lived together, these little lovebirds, that they paid for personal travel and other expenses related to DA Willis during times that are relevant to his appointment, right? So Nathan paid for Fani's vacations. And based on these and other allegations, Miss Merchant says that Wade and Willis should be disqualified from the case and that the indictment should be dismissed. So the media says now the possible existence of a romantic relationship between Special Prosecutor Wade and DA Willis, yeah, it's now a matter of significant and legitimate public concern. The media says the public interest in any court records in this action bearing in any way on a relationship between Fani and Wade overrides the privacy interests of the parties. Georgia Supreme Court has said so. Says that we have a presumption of access to court records even when they involve family matters. Media interveners respectfully request that the court vacate the sealing order. Why'd you seal it in the first place? Said here, the right of the media to intervene in legal actions where there's news gathering rights is well established. All these cases recognize the right of the press to challenge orders that exclude the public. This is an Atlanta Journal-Constitution case from Georgia itself, saying the public has a right to access the court records, saying it's well established that the First Amendment under the United States Constitution accords the press a right of access. In 1980, the United States Supreme Court held that the right to attend state trials is protected by the First Amendment. Now, the court subsequently recognized that the public press also enjoys a presumptive right. Now, in Georgia, the Georgia Supreme Court has also expanded on these constitutional principles by saying access to court records is one of the hallmarks of our state's judicial system. Well, I don't know if I really agree with that. You know, when I have to go get Georgia court records from their court record system, I got to pay like a couple dollars for it. It should be totally free, as they all should be. But all right, at least they have them online. Now, the court has reiterated time and again that open judicial records are proceedings that are integral to a part of our democratic system. Now, the court has sought to open doors of the Georgia courtrooms to the public. And so, similarly, we should have access to this. The right of access includes civil proceedings. Georgia Supreme Court has given us a lot of access to this, including an adult child who asserted the right to the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, although the case involved private parties and did not implicate ethical issues arising out of government services, as this case does here, the court did not hesitate. The court said mere embarrassment was insufficient to overcome the presumption of access. That's great news. So it sounds like this court has a lot of precedent that's going to open this up. Now, the burden of demonstrating that records should remain sealed is on the parties seeking to maintain the sealing. As set forth above, in order to properly seal the records, the harm resulting to the privacy of a person in interest must clearly outweigh the public interest. And to continue such sealing, the court must make factual findings on the record. So, Judge, if you're going to keep this sealed up, you got to tell us why. We're going to have a hearing, and you're going to have to make a note of it. It is not sufficient for the trial court to forego making findings of fact and simply state that the public interest is clearly outweighed by the potential harm. So no vague nonsense rulings. They say, hey, Judge, by the way, the public interest in this matter cannot be overstated. State versus Trump is a criminal proceeding of historic importance, which is why they probably should have appointed somebody who knew what they were doing and not sleeping with Fani. But the allegation that records in this action reveal a legally improper relationship between Fani and Wade, it must be answered in a transparent manner to preserve public confidence in our judicial system. Media interveners respectfully request the court vacate the sealing order that was previously entered and confine any sealing to, quote, protected identifiers governed by other rules. And for the reasons stated herein, we ask that you grant our motions. And this is what has been submitted, signed off and sent into the courts, saying based on a review of the docket, it appears that no motion preceded the sealing order. So why did the judge just seal it? No motion preceded the sealing order. Weird. Who asked them to do it? And the court did not hold the required hearing prior to its entry. Double question mark. Is there a cover-up afoot? The February 10th, 2022 sealing order itself and all prior filings are under seal. So the media interveners, we also assert, Judge, that the sealing of this action is both procedurally and it's substantively improper. So you didn't even seal it lawfully in the first place. And so weird stuff is happening here in Georgia, man. We already saw that Nathan Wade had a prior history of not taking any notes when he was doing studies about dead inmates. Didn't take any notes. Why didn't you take any notes? Got them all right here. Well, can we download from there? Not going to need them. So that's the point. It's all being covered up. And even the media is like, can we please have access to this? Why'd you seal it in the first place? Well, I don't know. Maybe Fani got her hands on it. But Fani has a hearing coming up, my friends. Thursday, February 15th is scheduled for an evidentiary hearing. I'm very hopeful that Judge McAfee will allow this to be broadcast. He's been broadcasting everything else. Why would he not broadcast this one? We'll see. We're going to be here continuing to cover it, my friends. And so thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. If you want to access any of the PDFs or sign up for our daily newsletter, which I would love it if you did, you can go to robertgovea.com. The link is down in the description below, and we'll look forward to seeing you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. Fani Willis, total BS indictment, and now the media is dogpiling in. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what's inside of those. Jack Smith loses. He is now forbidden from filing his petty motions because the case is on appeal. And Donald Trump, day 3, Alina finishes E. Jean Carroll, and we have the damages expert who came in and testified. And now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this. We're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. And apparently on our private internet access promo, the voices were out of sync. which just means we're going to have to do it again. Probably going to have to just do it again tomorrow, I guess. And so we're going to have to do that one again, and I'll figure out what happened. But apologies on that one. They're still great. Check them out in the description below, and we'll have to redo that one. But watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where you can join us for our after party. And my friends, thank you for sending in these amazing donos from the start. And I wanted to share this. You know, this is a member of our locals community. Look what she's doing out there on the wall. I mean, she's a mural on this beautiful wall. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful. So this is 51K over on locals. Was sharing that this morning on our members only stream. Here's another one. Look how cool that is. I have no artistic talent like this, so it's impressive. That's 51K on locals. We're going to be going over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com here in a few minutes to debrief. And let's get started. Lady Ice was flagging, saying, hey, there's no sound on YouTube. And then, of course, there was sound. Someone in the tubes knocked something and it started to work. Thank you for the heads up. Wendy W. What's up, Wendy? Bringing in Vicky H. 5 new membos, courtesy of Wendy W. Thank you, Wendy. Look who's coming in. Vicky O. Luke A. We got Summer Sunrises here. We've got Mark B. And NVS is in the house, courtesy of Wendy W. Thank you, Wendy, for bringing in our 5 latest membos. And Dolphin Fan is bringing in 20 membos. Oh, my goodness. So, membos, remember that you can join us on Telegram in the private chat group that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friends. By going over to the community tab section on YouTube, scroll down. There's a members only post for members only. Grab the Telegram link. We'll see you there. We've got Hollywood Hill is joining us, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man. Forget About It is here. John L, Jacko Pie, Robert O.G., Eddie C, Annie's here. Tyler G, Cyprian C is coming in. David Varank Gaming, Audra D, Geneva H, Ian M, Sue's here. Mr. Trump Train's in the house. We got Sean England and Stephen the Seaman is in the house. That's an interesting name. We have another one from Tim A, and Wolf Slayer is also in the house, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man. Thank you, Dolphin, for bringing in 20 of the newest membos. Grateful for you. And welcome aboard our newest membos. Hey, Jeremiah, 5x5 on local says, telling the judge to drop the case, Trump always gives his enemies an out on amnesty and they never take it. When the pendulum swings back, man, they're going down. All by the book, though. Fair and square. Well, you know, Jeremiah, I mean, I'm kind of, like, if we're going to have Machiavellian politics where the ends justify the means, you know, if they're going to play this game where they're going to wreck the justice system and just make up rulings and stuff, well, I guess the other side's going to have to play by their rules. Going to be fun. Jeffrey Adams says, if this is a federal court, will it appeal to the Supreme Court? If Trump wins, POTUS can pardon himself and wipe out the financial debt? No, I don't think it works quite like that. So, well, it's a great question, actually. So it's a state law claim that was removed to federal court. They've already ruled he doesn't have presidential immunity. So I don't know, you know, you could pardon for federal things, like a federal, you know, there might be a jurisdictional problem with this. But I don't think he could do that anyways. It's a civil claim, and I don't know, do pardons apply to civil stuff? I don't know the answer to that. It's a great question, Jeffrey Adams. But remember that his claim started off as a state level claim and it was removed to federal court because he was the president at the time back in 2019. So I think that makes a little bit of a procedural rub in the pardon stuff. Interesting question. I'll have to look it up. Hey, Christopher Lopez, what's up? FYI, your voice didn't match your lips on the ad video. Well, I'm going to have to do it again then. That one's not going to count. You know, I'm going to have to do it again. We're going to have to get more VPNs tomorrow. What's up, Chris? Thanks for being a membo for 5 months. Jennifer N is in the house. What's up, Jennifer? Thanks for the dono. Thanks for the good job sticker, the beautiful emoji. And I appreciate you, Jennifer. We've got this one from A Bad Poet says, E. Carroll's deleting her tweets. Hire demented Jack Smith. Yeah, so maybe he could go get an illegal search warrant for hers as well. Yeah, doesn't even consider executive privilege like we talked about yesterday. Voice of the People's in the house. What's up, Voice? Very good to see you. Says, in the Homeland Security hearing today, they admitted the border crisis is a policy of this administration, and it's not an impeachable offense. Oh, that's good. Well, I guess the people might have a different opinion on that, when the House votes to impeach Mayorkas or when they vote to throw Joe Biden out. Yeah, maybe it's not impeachable, but the people might have something to say about that, and I think that they are. So, nice, Voice. Good to see you. We got Ray Ronk says, first trimester! Woo! Woo! Why do these, it's our announcement. It says, why do these judges act like this, knowing that their conduct will likely get any verdict overturned by higher courts? Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the New York Court of Appeals, what's that going to go to the Second Circuit? I don't know. I think these judges have gotten so much, they get so much institutional deference that if they're the first one through, they might get supported by the Supreme Court, and we'll see where Trump takes it from there. Good to see you, Ray. Thanks for the first trimester. Jennifer N. What's up, Jennifer? Says, will the Court of Appeals take this trial seriously? It's just bizarre. How could any other person fight this type of trial? You're exactly right, Jennifer. You cannot. You can't. You'll lose. Like, it's lawfare through and through. You're in, you've got somebody with basically endless coffers. Reid Hoffman's got billions of dollars, so he's going to fund this until the end of time. You're in a court where the judge is clearly, in my opinion, one-sided, biased against the defense. You've got a jurisdiction that is rabidly anti-Trump. You can see that with Letitia James and the prosecution that's happening next door. And the Court of Appeals will probably hew close to that mentality. It's wild times. And they're doing this because of Trump. They hate Trump. And so they're wrecking all of the rules. Break glass in case of emergency. Alberta, what's up, Alberta? Welcome aboard, our newest supporter. Don't forget to grab that Telegram link. And Christina B's also coming in. Grateful to have you both. We do members-only streams in the morning. We had a beautiful stream this morning. We are going to do another members-only stream tomorrow. I was going to take tomorrow off, but then the schedule kind of changed a little bit, so I'm not going to do that. Tomorrow we'll be here, and we might also have a stream with Garrett Ziegler on Saturday. That might be in addition to it. So we'll see. But Christina, we'll see you back here tomorrow for the members-only stream and for our after party. Boopsies! Says, I missed a lot of your coverage on the Carroll case. Can you tell me if Trump's original defaming comments she's referring to were in response to what she said about him, or were they just out of the blue? Didn't she set herself up for a response? And what year did this take place? Thank you. Great questions, Boopsy. So the original lawsuit was filed in 2019. And I think the original statements, I don't know exactly the date of those, but the statement was so she released the article, she published it, Trump responded, and then they sued him. So it was like a trap. They just set the trap for him. Then in 2022, they passed the Adult Survivor Act in New York. And then that's when they added in the R claim and the DJ Diddles claim, the grab him by the purse claim. Those came in 2022, and they passed that statute because E. Jean Carroll wanted to add those claims. And she was behind passing the statute, was very involved in it. So, they basically baited him. Then they changed the law. Then they added some charges, and then they forum shopped the plaintiff. They forum shopped the court, and they orchestrated the whole thing. George Conway was behind it, meeting with her at a cocktail party. So, that's basically how it happened. But he was president at the time he made the statements, and he was responding to allegations. She says the allegation, it happened back in 1996 was when she said it occurred. Glocky's here. So here it comes. The Gateway Pundit is now reporting that the Obamas are angling their way to make Michelle the nominee for the DNC. Yeah, I totally believe that. Totally believe that. I can see it all day long. I can see them just do the old, Indiana Jones, that golden head for the bag of sand. It's just like they just take Joe Biden's head and just Michelle Obama's head, like that. But it's just symbolic. It's not like, I'm not encouraging any, it's an analogy, Swap one out, or the whole body, just swap the whole body. The Joe Biden, just swap him out for Michelle. You get the point. So here it comes. I totally believe that. I can see it. CF Rob says, no experience as a special prosecutor, only as a special boy toy, if you know what I mean. I'll divorce my wife for you, baby Fanny. God, I've never felt this way before. You make me light up inside, Fanny. And plus, I really like my hundreds of thousands of dollars, baby. Knox says, happy Thursday, all. Obama supporter, Chicago Tribune, had rival Jack Ryan's divorce unsealed despite objections from Ryan and his wife, Star Trek's Jerry Ryan. Here's the link. Why unseal the Ryan divorce papers? Interesting. That looks like it's in Illinois. Interesting. Yeah, so unseal them. Let's see what's inside. Good to see you, Knox. Glocky McGlock says, did you see where a Democrat won a +11 DeSantis district in Florida? It was all because of abortion. Yes, and they're going to try to get abortion on every single ballot in America in any way, shape, or form, because that's going to drive out their side. And they just like, it's the only thing they care about. It's weird. Like, don't you care about endless wars and taxes and borders? No, abortion. Weird. All right, relax. Here, Pinochet's helicopter tours says, what are the chances that Biden and the DOJ gave a promise of a pardon to all the corrupt feds, prosecutors, and DAs? Could explain White House visits and collusion. I don't know if there was an explicit promise of a pardon, but I think it's probably unspoken political favors. You know, you want to move up in this world? You want to get appointed as an ambassador somewhere? You got to do what we want you to do. Cowboy Rob says, okay, Trump, Carlson, Noam, AG, Kash Patel, Chief of Staff, Vivek, SecDef, Wesley Hunt, Secretary of State, Tulsi, Byron Donalds at Treasury, Dana White at Press Secretary. That's a good list, Cowboy Rob. It's a good list. Yeah, it's a good list. Dana White at Press Secretary. That'd be fun, man. That would be a lot of fun. This old guy's here says, all in all, a most satisfying day. Says, I think Alina scored some appeal points in the E. Carroll case, and Fanny's potential run for governor of Georgia is definitely over. She'll be lucky to keep her job as DA. Rob, have a good day at Genius tomorrow. We'll miss you. Well, this old guy, I changed it up, so I'm just going to go virtually. So I had a full day of Genius Network this morning and today, but it's timing up well. It's timing up well with the day. And so I've got a big Genius dinner next week, and so I've decided that I'm going to go virtually tomorrow, and then we'll do our member stream in the morning, the regular show tomorrow night. I'll do the rest of it virtually. We'll be able to squeeze it all in. We're going to squeeze it all in tomorrow. So I'll be here. This old guy will be here, and might even be here on Saturday too. We'll see. But thanks for saying that, and I appreciate that. Hey, Flash says, Rob, are you following the Forrest Gump shrimp fisheries core oral hearing regarding the U.S. Supreme Court? No, I have not seen this saga, says Flash. No, I have not been following it. Sounds interesting, though. Crash says, Rob, they don't hate Trump, although they do. They hate you and me and what we stand for. I totally agree with that. Yeah, Trump is just this symbol. It's a symbol for the rest of it. It's not just Trump. They've admitted this. Even, Rachel Maddow says, well, it's not just Trump. There are people who support Trump. And what about them? What about us? What about us, Rachel? What do you want to do? Lady Ice says, have any of his trials gone to the Supreme Court yet? Just the Colorado ballot case so far and the one for presidential immunity, right? Can he appeal the crazy Lady Jean cases? Yeah, I'm sure he can. They're already marking that. Now, yes. So the only one that has gone to the Supreme Court has been the Colorado case. You're right. The others have not made it there yet. The presidential immunity case is at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, pending a decision. They've already had oral arguments on that. And then everything else is at the lower level courts. So this one currently for E. Jean, I think the first one is already on appeal. I think other E. Jean stuff might be on appeal. So the first E. Jean stuff might actually also be on appeal with the Second Circuit. So I think they've already appealed the first one. Pretty sure. So that's kind of the update. All right, here, what else? We got Lady Ice in the house. We got this one. Says, oh, and I noticed in Iowa that the only district he didn't win was the one with the university. Also, was the very last one to report, and by one vote, nothing to see here. Also, love that lineup for the Trump admin. Yeah, that Iowa. We saw that. So we talked about the Iowa results on our members only stream in the morning. We talk a lot about other stuff, yeah. And yeah, that one guy. We're like, who is that guy in that one county? That one guy, who went out there and was like, I'm going to vote for Nikki Haley. Wrecked the whole state. So hopefully he feels good about himself. All right, let's see what's going on over on the X platform. And before we go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, let's say hello to our friends on X. And we got some good comments in the house, my friends. What's up? Phil Reno's here. Billy Jones, Daily Dose of TV. Phil says, the way this judge speaks to the Trump team, it makes my blood boil. Though I love the way you imitate the judge when reading the transcripts. Do you think this is truly the sentiment? Does this judge seriously speak to Abba like this? How is this allowed? Infuriating. Yeah, I'm sure he's very condescending to her based on her response. I think he's probably very condescending, but he's probably not as condescending as I am making him to be. He's probably not screaming at her. Maybe he is. He's I'm trying to interpret what Matthew Russell Lee is Xing to us, but it's probably close. It's probably close. Maybe we'll talk to him and see what he says. Kim Richardson says, shockingly biased, unfair, and corrupt judge. He should be fired. Is the screen blurry for everyone or no? I don't know. This guy says, this is great. Goofy for Jesus says Trump should be suing Carroll. She defamed him first. JB says, these corrupt judges have got me chomping at the bit to have them removed from office. No integrity. Another one from Phil Muscles is here. Says no financial recovery penalties too. This guy, Natsis, says, wish I could watch this episode on my TV. Oh well, guess I'll watch on YouTube. And Phil says, could Trump's team invite someone from the bar to sit in on these hearings? Well, that's what the appeal court is for. That's what the appeals is for. And then they can just, they've already filed a motion to recuse him. They've already filed a motion for a new trial, mistrial. So it's a lot. Rob, do you have belief in the justice system? Well, that's a big question. I have belief in justice. I have belief in the principles of justice. I do not have belief in the current people in charge of the justice system. I believe in due process. I believe in equal protection, the right to counsel. I believe in all of the concepts of around justice, but it's all being perverted. It's all being run over. It's break glass in case of emergency. Nobody cares. Whatever. Executive privilege, whatever. Trump on the ballot, whatever. Even Joe Biden's doing it, like with student loans and stuff. Well, it's all forgiven until the court, walks that back. He's already done the damage. So I have faith in justice. I do not have faith in the people who are operating the justice system. What's up, Norman Lee Smith? Thank you for the information and for the analysis. Good to see you, Norman. My friends, we got 42 people over on X. Woo! Woo, woo, 42. Good to see you guys. Very nice to see you on X. And thank you for following us. Thanks for retweeting the stuff. And thanks for liking and following the other people in the comments and retweeting and supporting their stuff. Because it's a wild world out there on the X. We got to be rallying the troops, supporting each other, out there liking each other's stuff and retweeting each other's stuff as well. We've got, before we wrap it up and go on over to locals, couple final donos. Thank you for these, my friends. Flash says, Rob, for convenience, here is the oral argument link at the Supreme Court. There's been some interesting Supreme Court oral arguments, including one about the Chevron stuff, which we talked about. Knox says, Donald Trump symbolizes everyone who has ever eaten at McDonald's, wore a sports hat, or was never invited to a cotillion. I don't even know what that word is. Yeah, I've obviously never been invited to a cotillion. Never even seen that word. I don't know what that is. Man, I am like a total peasant, am I? All right, so thank you, Knox. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I probably don't want to go to those things. Where does Epstein go to those things? Yeah, we'll stay away from those. Thank you, Knox. We got Lady Ice is in the house, says, with the transcript showing all caps with periods, it makes me think it might even be worse. Is this normal for these judges to interrupt the attorney even during closing and leading witnesses, objecting, etc.? It seems crazy. How do they get away with this? To me, look, I'm not in the courtroom, but yes, it feels very bad. It feels very one-sided, very unfair. And this honestly, this resembles the first trial. Like, this judge has been this way for a long time. And he gets away with it because he's got permanent appointments and because he's been doing it for 25 years. And what is anyone going to do about it? Nothing, because there's nothing that they can do about it. And he's in New York, and they probably love it. So that, my friends, thank you for those amazing donos, for all the love and the support. I really am grateful for the things that you send in. It really is amazing. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Yeah, it's a social dance. All right, that's what a cotillion is. All right. So watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we're headed right now. We're going to hang out. I thought cotillion followed a billion. A bazillion. Maybe, yeah. That's as good a guess as any. A cotillion, make it a bajillion. Okay. All right. So watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we're going. We do members only streams in the morning. We do Saturday shows. We're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here on Saturday. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come and join us. We also have our website, robertgovea.com, which is where you can get all the PDFs. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can watch the show right there, the segments of the show right there. Get access to the mind map, all the good stuff. Link is down in the description below. We're going to have to redo our PIA friends, our VPN. We'll figure that out tomorrow. Apologies to them, but they're still a great company, and their link is down in the description below. So we'll hit that again probably tomorrow. But mods and meme smiths in the house. And Mary, thank you for becoming a supporter. Mary R., our newest supporter. Welcome aboard. I want to thank Vienticus Prime for modding down the fort for us today and clipping away like a madman. Thank you, V. K Beans in the house. Just Cause is here, playing hooky. We got Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu. We got Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me modding down the fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly. And thanks to our meme smiths, Geegum Geegum, Sleepy Dog Lee, and Nathan N810 in the house. My friends, that is it for us on the day. We're going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to see what the day has in store for us. I'm sure it's going to be eventful. There is a lot of stuff cooking. There's a lot of stuff filing. In fact, Donald Trump's team filed a motion to compel recently, so we've got that queued up. We'll see if there's anything more happening with Fani, and we'll get into all of it tomorrow. And we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. See you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.